He can't imagine how his life is going to change over these next. Part of the job, Cokie Roberts, you've studied First Ladies, is protecting their children from the changes that can come in the White House.
Absolutely. And, you know, really, it was Bill and Hillary Clinton that started that. When George Bush took their cue from that, their daughters, of course, were in college, a very dangerous age. and then the Obamas, of course, with young children, raising them in the White House, they were very, very clear on this.
Let's listen in on the parade.
Academy at West Point. Following them closely will be the United States Army Field Band. From our nation's capital is the United States Army's Field Band, known as the musical ambassadors of the Army. The band was founded in 1946 with a mission to take the story of the Army and its soldiers to the grassroots of America. These musicians travel 40,000 miles around our nation each year, perform more than 500 concerts for more than 1 million people. They are the military's most traveled band.
We're going to see several bands from the U.S. military.
Enjoy the sounds of the United States Army Field Band.
Following them, the United States Military Academy and the Army Color Guard. And then right after that, Donald Trump's hometown is going to be honored. The New York Police Department's Emerald Society Pipes and Drums. Here, the United States Army Field Band. Are you still with us on the reviewing stand?
I am still here just outside the review stand. It's a little loud, guys, but the Army band just passing by, and you mentioned that the NYPD Emerald Society Pipes and Drums, you mentioned bagpipes, but they endorsed Donald Trump, and that's pretty rare for them because they in previous years had endorsed Barack Obama, but shortly we're going to see the Wounded Warrior project, and that will be the first of 4 veterans groups. We know that veterans groups are near and dear to Donald Trump's heart, and you will see veterans have a big presence in this parade, George.
There's the salute from President Trump.
Chief of Staff of the Army with him, Mark Milley, who is a combat veteran in Iraq and elsewhere. He was also at Fort Hood during the last mass shooting there.
Martha, talk a little bit more about the president's support from the military. This came despite the fact that several times during the campaign he derided our generals. He did seem to have support at the grassroots.
And I think that's what's key at the grassroots. You see a lot of enlisted in the military who support Donald Trump. You certainly have some more senior people who probably don't. But that doesn't mean they won't follow orders. It doesn't mean that they do not respect him as the commander-in-chief, because he is the commander-in-chief now, and that is their job, to protect and defend the Constitution. But I think he's grown on many people, too, because he has a General Madison there, because he has a General Kelly now at Homeland Security, because he's shown such respect for the military since being elected. He reached out to so many people during the transition, so many senior officers, so many national security experts. You know, General Petraeus went there, others who he sought counsel from, Admiral Stavridis, and talked to them about what they thought needed to happen.
You know, he's talked about also wanting a plan from the generals in the next 60 days for a new plan to combat ISIS. Do you think it's going to be all that different from what we're seeing now?
Well, you know, during the campaign and during the debates, he kept saying, you know, we're just going to bomb the hell out of ISIS. I mean, that's pretty much what we've been doing for couple of years now, and they've made tremendous progress. I mean, we know they're surrounding Mosul and moving into Mosul to try to take back Mosul from ISIS. Syria, that's another question, and what they do about Syria. If you're going to get rid of ISIS completely, you got to do something about Syria.
There we see the Emerald Society pipes and drums from the City of New York Police Department. One more point on that. You mentioned Syria, Martha Raddatz. Of course, President Obama criticized by many for drawing that red line in Syria, then failing to attack President Assad of Syria, basically excluded from the recent actions that the collusion of Russia and President Assad, and they're calling for peace talks now on Monday. President Obama excluded. They've invited a representative from President Trump.
Yeah, they certainly have. That's a message right out of the gate. Yeah, come on and join us. Come and talk to Russia. Come and so that was a pretty clear message. I'm not sure President Obama would have wanted to go to that meeting with Russia and Assad, however.
And the key test in the early going for Putin and Trump is whether or not President Trump lifts the sanctions, which Kellyanne Conway has said he intends to. Those sanctions put on Russia when Russia seized Crimea, and it is the #1 goal of the Putin foreign policy to get out from under those sanctions, and Trump has openly talked about trading them for reductions in nuclear weapons.
And President Obama asked about that at his press conference the other day, Terry, and what he said is that, let's remember, as you just pointed out, why the sanctions were imposed. They were imposed after Russia went into Crimea, completely separate from nuclear arms reductions. And Donald Trump also has said, has not endorsed the sanctions President Obama put on after the hacking, not said, though, he will lift them either.
Right, but he is playing a very dangerous game, many foreign policy people think. He's the third president now. Remember, George W. Bush looked into Putin's soul, and the famous reset of Barack Obama. This is now the third United States president who thinks they can do a new kind of business with Vladimir Putin. Putin has demonstrated that he is a very, very strong character in international relations, and we'll see how Donald Trump's deal-making works with the guy who is right now probably the most effective statesman in the world for his country.
This is all coming, though, and as we've talked about this a little bit, Martha Raddatz, this is all coming as there is now still an active investigation going on now by the FBI and the intelligence community into Russia's involvement in the election, into whether or not there were contacts with the Trump campaign. You've got several key senators, including John McCain, Lindsey Graham, other Republicans, who are taking a much tougher line on Russia than the one taken by the president.
And the president, as you know, just really came around in the past couple of weeks to say Russia indeed was involved in the hacking, and he even sort of softened that by saying others have probably been involved in hacking as well. As you know, others have been involved in hacking, but in that particular case. And people want that looked into. They want to look to see if there was any contact. I mean, the Trump administration says there absolutely wasn't any contact between his staff and the Russians, but they still want some answers.
And the one issue that could still trip up the president's nominee for Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, is Exxon's work in Russia and Mr. Tillerson's refusal to take as hard a line as some of the senators on that committee wanted him to take.
He did not have the answers that they wanted on the committee. They asked him very specific questions about that, and he seemed to have little information.
It's also,
let's turn back to the parade right now.
A congressionally chartered veteran service organization founded in 1946. Solving the special needs of their members, veterans of the armed forces who have experienced spinal cord injury or disease. Let's hear it again for the Paralyzed Veterans of America organization. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the New York Military Academy from Cornwall, Hudson, New York. This historic academy has been named a Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps Distinctive Honors and are marching with their cadets' dress uniform modeled after post-World War I General Blackjack Pershing's gray uniform.
Proud moment there for the president. Of course, New York Military Academy is where he attended from 1959 to 1964. In the 1964 yearbook, he was voted Ladies' Man. Big thumbs up there from the president.
He's got a good salute, a good, strong salute. I'm just going to say that. He does. I know Bill Clinton had a little problem in the beginning with his salute and was criticized, but...
Perhaps something he learned at the New York Military
I would say
Academy
that's
many,
probably
many
where
years
he learned it.
ago. Right behind them, I